Welcome to the Manufacturing Come Up podcast. Here I have Emily Wilkins here with us today. This podcast is still pretty new, so the premise of this podcast is that we're going to dive deep into kind of her backstory, her history, and where she comes from and how she's got to where she's at today. Now she's currently a business owner, and your business name is?
Marketingmetal.
Marketingmetal. So she's really focused around targeting companies that are like job shops, is that correct?
Yep.
And helping them market and being able to come up with a marketing solution.
Yep.
So we're going to dive into a little bit of her story and find out where she came from and how she got to where she's at. So if you wouldn't mind like taking us to like as far back as you want to take us.
Yeah, so I grew up near Detroit, and most of my family was in the automotive industry. My parents both worked for GM. They met there. My dad was a test engineer, product development. So he worked out at the proving grounds doing, emissions testing and driving vehicles around the track there. And I actually got to do that myself. I took a Z06 around the track at GM proving grounds when I was like 19. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
He's always just been like a tinkerer, like in his shop, and I spent a lot of time with him when I was young, especially because my mom had twins shortly after me, and it was like a really rough pregnancy, and she lost them, and then had my sisters 2 years after that, and they were like one after another. So my mom was a little busy with babies and all that, and so I spent a lot of time with my dad. And actually, my mom is super mechanical as well. She's she worked at GM in product development, and then went back for her master's degree, and is a calculus professor now at an engineering school. So, yeah, so that's part of how I ended up in this realm, because I got free tuition at Kettering University, which used to be General Motors Institute.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Did they found it or something, or?
It was founded by somebody else, but then they kind of bought into it.
Gotcha. Sponsored it or something like that?
Not long after. It was like 10 years into it, they bought into it. And then the whole concept was, it was a school for like management for their line people. So they'd work on the line, and then they'd go to school. So like they'd work on the line for 3 months, and then they'd go to school for 3 months and then work on the line. And that's still how they do it now, but it's not just GM. Like kids work anywhere. I had friends that worked for Disney, like doing roller coasters, and like I had a friend that did product testing for Patagonia, like just really cool things that you wouldn't think of in that kind of space.
Okay, and the name of the school is what?
Kettering University.
Okay, and
Yeah.
so do you know if that university has like a special name to it or anything like that, or?
It's named after Charles Kettering, who's like he was a big I think he was a Ford guy. I'm probably butchering this. I should probably know this history better. He was big in the automotive realm, so that's kind of who it was named after. But it was GMI for a really long time. It was General Motors Institute until like mid-90s, I think. So, and then they changed it to Kettering.
Yeah, I see something like that, like being really powerful for like people, like it's an entry point and being able to get into the space.
Yeah, for sure. I started in mechanical engineering, and my first co-op job was in the auto industry for a company that made dashboard, like interior stuff, interior panels and all that stuff. And I remember sitting in a meeting with like 25 people. It was dark, they had the overhead on with like dark room, and I just was like I could not stay awake, and I'm like, this is the most boring shit I've ever done in my life. Like, I don't want to do this. I know that's not the experience for all mechanical engineers.
Some people get into it, but yeah.
There's different aspects of that, but so I almost left and went to art school, and then my best friend's, her mom also was a professor at Kettering, so she was in the same thing. Like, we both had free tuition. She's like, you can't leave. Like, you can't go, you can't go rack up a bunch of debt at a school when you have free tuition here. So just switch to business. You can do anything with a business degree, you know. And I was always kind of entrepreneurial. Like I was the kid with the lemonade stand and like going around selling candy to people, trying to get money or trying to like win the prizes. And I don't know if you remember all of those things.
Yeah,
the pizza kits.
Yeah, we had like bunny money or just some stuff like that.
Yeah, all that. So yeah, that's kind of, I don't know, how I ended up here. And then I worked.
So did you make the shift, I guess, then from mechanical to business?
Yeah. So then I switched to business, and then all my co-op jobs from there were business related. I worked in the toy industry for a little while. I worked for a company that made like Hot Wheels. Okay. And we had a Thomas the Tank Engine license, so I was on the Thomas team.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So we developed the little die-cast ones and the wooden trains.
No way.
Yep.
That's awesome. Those became like a big thing for some time.
Oh yeah, it's blown up.
Don't they have like the wood track and everything that goes with them? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's awesome. So that was really fun, and that was actually here in Chicago. And I ended up having to move home because I got sick. I have Crohn's disease, so I've kind of struggled with that since I was 16, and you know, college kids make really smart lifestyle decisions. So so that, you know, didn't work out so well for me. I was sick all the time in college, and then so I ended up moving home, and then I worked at Kettering for a co-op term, I think, and then I ended up finding a job at a job shop that made these security bars for like arcade machines.
Really?
Yeah, so like people can't break into the the coin thing.
Yeah, it's like a cage
take
thing.
all the money. Yeah, that was their main niche, but they did like roller coaster parts and like weird. They just had like they worked in really weird.
Yeah, a bunch
niches.
of different random stuff, kind of.
Yeah, and it was a small shop. There were like 5 people that worked there. I worked directly with the owner, so I learned a lot about like entrepreneurship, honestly, from him, because he was just a really like, you know, one of those guys who was just always teaching. You know, he just was always
open
telling
and
me
sharing
what he's
his
doing.
knowledge.
Yeah. So that was really cool. That was my thesis project. I had to develop a brand and website for a product line that they developed for the marine industry. So it was like dollies for outboard motors, so that mechanics can work on them when they're not on the boat, and like, you know, move them around the shop and stuff like that. So yeah, I developed the whole marketing, did their website and brochure and everything. And
so were you at that company at that time, or did you shift? And
yeah, so I worked there, I think 2 terms, my last 2 school terms. I did my thesis there, and then I'm trying to think what was after that. I worked for GE Aviation for a little while as like a document editor, which was the most boring thing I ever did in my life. But yeah, it was interesting working for a big company. It was enough to realize that that's not what I want.
Yeah. That's one thing I haven't had a lot of experience is corporate, like the corporate world. I've worked in small company pretty much my entire career.
Yeah. The toy business was big, but not GE. You know, it was like, it was corporate, but not big. Like, you know, our department was like, I don't know, 25 people or something, like not huge. But yeah, so, and there was, in that job too, I did a lot of like product development and working with our factories in China, you know, coordinating, product development and manufacturing development for different toys and whatnot. So yeah, and then.
So when you was doing like the website design and all that, your first one, what company was that with?
It's called A1 Security Bars, and they're still around. They're still in Zealand, and the owner's still there. He's still awesome. So yeah, it's a really cool experience. It's just been things like that that have been like people that were willing to teach me about what they do, and yeah.
And you were you just there for like the college terms?
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
Yeah, I think because, you know, I kind of built the thing, and then he didn't like needed anymore. It wasn't, social media wasn't a thing at that point. There wasn't like,
they marketed, they captured whatever they wanted to
Yeah.
capture, and then they were done with it.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, and then I worked at just a couple different shops that did super niche stuff. I worked with a company that made wash systems for tanks and airplanes and helicopters, and they would design either a concrete pad or a steel pad that they'd drive the vehicle up onto, and then it collected the water, and then they had a recycling system that would take the water and filter it, and then they'd reuse it with the when they're washing. So it was this closed loop system that worked really well in remote environments for like military and
Don't have much water
construction,
supply,
mining, like all stuff like that, where they have to maintain those giant vehicles, and so that was interesting.
So like whenever you're there at that company, like what was your role? Was it marketing role, or what type of role were you in there?
Yeah, it was marketing, like inside sales. I was kind of the sales coordinator. I worked directly with the sales team and helped them with trade show booths. So we did FabTech here.
Oh, really?
Uh, yeah, I feel like we did IMTS too, but I don't remember for sure. I know we did FabTech. But yeah, I would help them coordinate their booths. I'd go stand in the booth with them, take pictures. Yeah, I've taken some really cool photos of like massive pieces of equipment, because they have these big like wash booths that they would use to clean part. They had I think they were for it was either like mining, or I think it was mining, but they were just these giant components that they had to clean after they were machined, so that they could finish them and whatever. So yeah.
So like, was this kind of like one of your first jobs like into the actual market, or?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, with Kettering, it was full-time work. Every 3 months it was full. Like I was doing full-time 40 hours. So, so that was kind of from freshman year on. But yeah, after I graduated, I did the GE thing, and then yeah, I'm trying to remember. Oh, and then I worked for another toy company in Grand Rapids, and I loved that job. It was awesome because it was close enough to home that I was like, yes, I could do this. This is sweet.
Are these positions, are they all like marketing positions that you were in, or?
Yeah, marketing and product development, because they tend to be grouped together, because marketing is like researching what their audience wants and talking to their customers, and what kind of products do we want, and then we'd work with the development team to
Maybe for features or just whatever may be.
And we'd get prototypes made, and then we would take photos of the prototypes before we had actual parts from production for to do all our marketing with. So so it was very intertwined. I worked with development a lot. So
Yeah. So how was that like marketing process for you? What are some like key things that you learned from it? And
well, the different types of companies have very different marketing needs and approaches. So like the toy companies, like they had full marketing departments. So I was like doing one, kind of, I don't know. It was always very diverse. Like the work was always very diverse. One day I'd be like coordinating a photo shoot, and the next day I'd be, I don't know, working with a market research firm to, do a product study or whatever. Helping out the web team with content, or coming up with copy for packaging or things like that. So it was always very diverse.
Yeah, it sounds like you're like really getting like a good full scope of like all the different things that are going on within marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like been kind of a thing for me. Like, I all my marketing that I do is like kind of just intuition, right? Like, so I haven't had like a ton of marketing experience, and especially like corporate marketing, like how you're talking about like product design, and then going to market and finding features, or doing utilizing like an external analysis team that's finding out what the market need is for the product. Like
it's very different than for job shops, small shops that are doing like custom work. It's almost a service. What you do is a service, right? Every project is custom to your customer, and you're meeting their needs. So that's who I work with now. And that's, you know, some of the smaller shops that I did, that was more of their, you know, more of their style. And aside from those toy jobs, that's kind of always been who I've worked for internally. And I just always had a really hard time, and my teams, like, we always just had a really hard time with the marketing agencies. Like, we would hire outside help to help us with marketing, and it was just always this struggle because the agency didn't want to give us any control over it because they wanted to be able to charge us for all of that stuff. But then, you know, they don't understand the nuances of the product and the tech and the custom. You know, they don't understand the customer point of view, and you know, it's a lot to learn. So that's why my approach now, and what I've started to do with Marketingmetal, is I really kind of reverse this whole process, because I think so many job shops are just like new to marketing, really. I mean, they might have a website, but it's probably 10 years old. You know, they might not have all their Google posts claimed or whatever, or Google listings claimed. And so I really help them build that foundation. And then I educate them on what I'm doing and why. I help them build a brand and a message that's exciting and interesting, that makes people talk. And that's why we're sitting in front of a gorilla right now, because this company, Gorilla Mills, I just think their marketing is awesome. They're weapons of mass production. Like, that is such a great tagline. Yeah. Weapons of mass production. I love that. But it makes people stop and look. You know, you know, they're getting in trouble for their music being loud by their competitors. Like, when your competitors are complaining that your marketing is too loud, I think you're doing something right. Yeah,
absolutely. That was the thing I was telling her when we were off camera, was like, that's how I know when like a marketing thing is like gonna perform well. It's like when I question myself, like, this is probably gonna piss some people off.
Yeah. And that's what I try to do with my customers. Like, not that they all need to be like that radical where they're making people mad, but just make it more substance and give them more, more talking points, and get people more excited about what they're doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So how long have you been running your operation?
I started in 2019, February, I think. 2019 is when I officially left, and I sort of started as part of I was the marketing director at a product development and engineering firm. So again, like prototyping, product development, like that was all what I was marketing. And, they essentially had a job shop, like their prototyping shop was a job shop. They were always doing different stuff for different customers. And so I worked for them. And then we also, as part of that, I built a marketing services department to help. We'd have these inventors that would come in with product ideas, and they'd have no idea who their customer was going to be, or give any thought to how they were going to market it or any of that. So that was kind of the vision. It didn't totally pan out that way, but I was able to kind of get a few customers doing that through them. And then, thankfully my boss let me kind of just take the business with me, because there wasn't anyone else there that was going to do it. So it made sense.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, how your career path can take you down a certain way, and how you just got to, take that experience and just organically learn it and then take it into your own process.
Yeah, you never know what one random thing that you learned is going to, how that's going to apply to a future position or future, trajectory that you're going after. So, we were talking off camera, I felt so lost in my career for so long. Really, even after I started my business, I was still questioning myself, am I doing the right thing? And, I still obviously have those days, but they're much less than they used to be. Right. But you just never know, and you got to kind of just take every experience,
Yeah, absolutely. I think that another thing is just pushing forward for growth for a thing, right? And having some type of focus. One thing that I didn't really mention is a lot of my marketing skill set does come from the fact that I operated a fitness YouTube channel. And so I grew it to a couple thousand followers, and an Instagram to 10K followers. So it was always those same like marketing questions: how to grow a YouTube channel, how to do, you know what I mean? How to get more views, how to do this, how to do that. And so like through that, you learn all the thought processes behind how to market things, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And it's so much less, I mean, what I've learned is it's so much less about the tactics and the how. It's more about the why and the substance that you're using for that. And that's what I talk about a lot. Like, if you don't have something interesting to say that's connecting with your target audience, then you're wasting your marketing dollars. Whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you're boring and you're not grabbing your audience's attention, then you're wasting your marketing dollars. You're just throwing them away.
Absolutely. Yeah, like one of the things that, you know, we kind of have really been discovering like over the past like 6 months or something like that is like we're putting out content, like people know who we are, but they don't know what we do. You know what I mean? So they don't know who we are, if that makes sense. They know our name, they know the brand, things like that, but what do you guys do? They don't really know. And that kind of came up to like going to different events and stuff. I'm like, what is it you guys do anyway? You know? And it's like, oh. You know?
Oh, maybe we should talk about that a little bit in our marketing. Yeah.
You know, I think it's good too to like not be too salesy on like, hey, this is what we do, this is what we do, this is what we do. There's a fine balance.
Right.
But you also can't sway the other way where you're never selling anything because you're never, you know, what do you call it? Doing your product showcase.
Yeah. But again, like, you know, make it exciting, make it interesting. Like, if you're entertaining your audience, even though you're pitching what you do, like they're still gonna like it and watch it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're doing it in the entertaining way.
Right.
So to pivot a little bit, what are like some more things that you think can help individuals early on in their career, or maybe they haven't even got to the workforce yet? What are some of the things you think they can do to start navigating their way into the manufacturing space?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of depends on their situation, I guess, but be curious, you know, look for manufacturing companies in your community and go and ask them what they do. They'll give you a tour. Any shop, if you walk into a shop and say, hey, I'm really curious about what you're doing, they'll give you a tour. They are not good at going out into the community and telling people that they'll do a tour. Right. But if you go in and ask, they'll give you one.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of small things like that people don't even know about, they don't even think about.
And watching YouTube videos like what you guys are doing, and you know, just seeing how things are made. They're like really entertaining shows out there now, like Metal Shop Masters, and what's the one that Pro just did, the Project MFG.
Or like you have like
Clash of the Trades.
Clash of the Trades, yeah. And you have like Titan CNC. They're huge. They've blown up, and like I just actually found this out today, but they don't do manufacturing anymore. They're not a machine shop. They're just a media company. And it's like, holy cow, like I had no clue, didn't suspect it, like mind blowing.
Yeah. And I was talking to somebody recently, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, every company has to be a marketing company or media company. I mean, if you're not marketing minded and media minded, then you're not, you're not going to make it. And I went to I listened to, I think it was the president of Modern Machine Shop, kind of breaking down all the numbers of they do a survey every year of job shops to see how they stack up against each other, and just going through all that data. And one of the things he kept saying over and over again was the ones that are making it and doing, crushing it on all things are doing awesome marketing. Like they're spending marketing money. They're paying attention to what they're doing in marketing.
100% makes sense. And like a really important thing that you mentioned is that you have to think about your immediate company as well, because whenever you have that mindset, it changes things, right? Not just a marketing department, but a media company, because then the marketing department can almost operate as if it's not part of the company, right? It can have its own ecosystem, maybe it's even its own little bit of its own culture. That's like kind of one of the things we're trying to define in our company. Like I'm like, having discussions with our team. You guys are the ones that should be telling me what I should be doing, right? Like, I just want to show up, do the things. You let me know when I need to be there. Right?
Yeah, 100%. And doing that is going to make them want to work for you more, right? Because you're involving them.
Yeah.
You're
giving them full control.
Their opinion matters, and that they can be creative and come up with fun ideas. I mean, who doesn't consume content on their phone? Like,
right.
I mean, there are a few maybe, but they're few and far between. But I mean, everyone's out there watching whatever it is they're watching, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, whatever media you're watching, like, pay attention to what you're looking at and why, and ask your team what they're looking at and why, and just try some things.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any last value add that you can bring to people coming into the industry, trying to make career shifts, maybe people thinking about starting a company?
Oh, you better have thick skin if you're going to start a company, right. And be determined, really determined. Learn how to balance yourself, because it's never balanced, right? It's like this all the time. Yeah. So you gotta, when you're in those lows, you gotta just keep going and know that everything's going to be fine, and you're doing the right things. You're doing all that you can. It's going to come back up. Yeah. Just got to be patient. Yeah. But I mean, I think that's true for anything that you do, probably. It's just more sharper when you're a business owner.
It's rockier as a business owner, yeah. I would say people should probably go train as a boxer, get punched in the face a couple times, and then I think they'll oh, that's what a business is like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, sales, honestly, I never wanted to be a salesperson. I always, I don't know, I came from a culture that kind of looked negatively on sale, snake oil salesman, whatever. Yeah. So I always got a weird vibe from it, but I've had to do it a lot in my career, and because of that, I'm super comfortable now, and I don't see it as
a bad thing, right?
Weird, awkward thing.
It don't have to be, yeah.
No, it doesn't have to be. It can be really fun. I mean, this show, we've been here for 3 days at this show, and it's just been fun, meeting people and having conversations and connecting with people. I don't know if any of them are going to turn into leads, but
easily something organic could happen.
Something's going to come out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So
absolutely. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Where can people find you at?
Marketingmetal.com. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Emily Joann Wilkins.
Yep. She's famous.
I'm not famous. I think you have more followers than I do. I'm pretty positive. But yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for being on the podcast. I enjoyed it.